No solutions, no new ideas, no new plans. Just a bunch of statements repeated about teachers and administrators being handcuffed, having their hands tied, and no one can articulate to me what that means. Well, I'm going to tell you what I think they mean by that. It means that the law is meant to protect students based on race, and the law is meant to protect students with disabilities, are the reason we have negative behaviors in our schools. We think we don't discipline Black students and students with disabilities enough. That's what I think you mean. And if you think I'm wrong, then listen to this. I have a fellow board member here who just recently, yes, it's in video footage, made this statement about our discipline policy. When you take a look at our discipline policy when it was first implemented, it sounded really good on paper. That's when we had control at the local level in our schools. Where it got out of hand is when we started talking about discipline and race together. That's when it handcuffed our schools, and we lost control of our schools with discipline. No new plan, no new idea. And when asked by concerned members of the community if you reviewed data before you had that video, your answer was no. When you were asked by concerned citizens of this community if you reviewed the discipline plan at all, the strategic plan, the entire policy, the answer was no. We are an educational institution. We make decisions based on data. So I brought some. Hold on to your cheeks, Mr. Ivey. This data was compiled not only by the numbers given to these community members here at Brevard Public Schools, but by the NAACP and by Mr. Bryan. Everyone at this table has a packet that I provided for you. I had a couple extra that I passed out into the audience. You want it? I'll give it to you. Trust me. It's interesting that we invited people from other counties here to have this conversation with us, because the first question I asked was, where do we rank among the state? We are the 10th largest school district in the state of Florida, and guess what? We have the 10th largest number of incidences. That makes sense. We are no different than anybody else. But here's where we are. 10th largest in the state, we are number 1 in expulsions, number 1 in ALC placements, and number 4 in suspensions. So the narrative that we are not disciplining our children doesn't make any sense, because the data doesn't say that. Mr. Bryan had made a statement that he had gathered 3 years of information and data, and that's what I'm speaking to right here. This is what Mr. Bryan put together for us. And it's kind of hard to have this conversation when you're not looking at it, so I'm going to do my best for the people who are listening at home and the people in this room who don't have it in front of them. But when we look at our discipline totals and we look at the subgroups, yes, we look at the subgroups because it's important. Because here's why. This pattern happened for the past 3 years, and I guarantee if we looked backwards, it would have continued back then. They are carbon copies of each other. Our Black students represent 15% of our population. They represent 34% of our discipline referrals. Mr. Bryan said, when you make smart decisions and you tackle challenges, very complex challenges, you look at the top issues. The top issues are willful disobedience, out of area, and classroom disruptions. That's not what I heard in the video. And when you break every single one of those down by subgroup, you see a very obvious trend. Our Black students aren't doing them more than anyone else.